Welcome to our next video lesson. This is video lesson number 13, and it is on something called the coordinate plane. For this lesson, of course, you need your yellow TOC that you were given in class. You will also need a pen or pencil to take notes, but most importantly, you will need a highlighter or marker or colored pencil so that you can add some color to help you as you go through this, because we are going to be making some notations with the color. And lastly, this is part of the calculator section, but you will not need a calculator for this because there's no calculations. Let's get started. So at the very top of your page, you will see this graphic that we have here in the middle. That is called the coordinate plane, and that's what it looks like. And it's also sometimes called the coordinate system or the coordinate grid. It was developed by a French mathematician named Descartes. So, and it's also sometimes called the Cartesian plane because it was founded by this French guy named Descartes. So, let's dive into the vocabulary, shall we? So, coordinate plane, or the coordinate system, is formed by the intersection of two number lines at the point that they meet at their 0 points. So, it's the point in the middle, this point right there, where the horizontal number line, which is that purple line right there, and the vertical number line meet, or where they overlap. That is your middle point, that 0 point, and that is how the Cartesian coordinate system is formed, by those two number lines overlapping. Our next word is called the x-axis, and this is the horizontal number line on the coordinate plane. Now, horizontal means it's the same base word as horizon. So if you've ever been to the ocean front or the beach front and you look out and you see the horizon, that's the horizontal line where the water and the skyline meet. So that is the horizon. Horizontal means side to side. So go ahead and highlight that with your marker, colored pencil, color something, highlighter, whatever you have. And then I want you to label it at the top of your page as the x-axis. And you can also add that that's the horizontal number line, because sometimes they will say, what is the horizontal number line? And you have to say, oh, I know that. That's the x-axis. And when you have the x-axis, it's important to note that all of your positive numbers are on the right of 0 on the number line, and all of your negative numbers are going to be on the left of 0 on your number line. This is the same number line that we've been using when we studied integers way back at the beginning of the year. The only difference is now we're laying it over the top of a piece of grid paper to show where all of these lines are going to intersect. So, but it is the same type of number line, so but imagine it can go on forever in either direction. Okay, this next one we have is the vertical number line, or the y-axis. And again, that is the vertical. That means it goes up and down. So I want you to go ahead and highlight that and use a different color if you have it, and then label it on the top as the y-axis, and that is the vertical number line. And this one is very similar to the horizontal number line, where your positive numbers are above 0 and your negative numbers are below 0. So sometimes I tell students to think of the x-axis, the horizontal number line, as your ocean, and on the y-axis, anything that's above the ocean or above the water is positive. Anything that's below the water is negative. So that's an easy way to remember the coordinates on your y-axis. Right. The next three words have to do with the points and how we use the coordinate system and the coordinate plane. So we are going to give you a set of numbers, and they're going to be in parentheses, and those are called the coordinates. So think of the coordinate plane or the coordinate system as a map, and you are finding where the treasure is buried, but they're going to give you these numbers in a set to figure out where the point is that you need to start digging. So the x-coordinate is the number of steps that you're taking either left or right. So those are, it's the first number in the set of numbers that they give you, and that number corresponds to the x-axis. And that means that you're merely moving right or left. If it's positive, you're going to move to the right. If it's negative, you're going to go to the left. So again, the x-coordinate is either moving left or right, not up or down. And this is where students usually have mistakes. The y-coordinate, that would be the second number in the ordered pair, and it corresponds to the numbers on the y-axis, and that's your vertical number line going up and down. And these numbers are the spaces that you move either up or down. If it's positive, you're going to go up. If it's negative, you're going to go down. And again, these are put into a set, and that set of coordinates is called an ordered pair. And it looks like what you have here in your notes. This is a pair of numbers, and it's got the parentheses, x comma y. That's what it's going to look like. But instead of x and y, it's going to have numbers. And these are used to describe the location of a point on the coordinate plane. So here's some examples I want you to add in your notes. Ordered pairs look like this, x comma y, but I'm going to have you add some examples here in just a second. And an easy way to remember the order that you need to go in is this little rhyme. Remember, x before y, you must walk the x before you fly the y. So that means that you have to walk, go left or right first before you can go up or down on the y. Because students want to go up or down first and then go left or right second. That's backwards. You got to walk first and then up or down. And here's some examples of what you're going to see. You're going to see 3, 2, and that 3 would be the left or right, and the 2 would be up or down. If you look at the second example, -9 and 2, it's -9, I'm going to go to the left, and a +2, I'm going to go up. With the third example, I have a -1 to the left, 1 space, and then a -2, I would go down 2 spaces. And then sometimes you're going to see something that has a 0, and if you see a 0 and then 10, that means that I'm going to go 0 spaces left or right. I'm going to stay on that y-axis and just go up 10. So those are called, those wouldn't be in a blank space, they'd actually still be on the line. So sometimes you're going to have that too. All right, so let's talk about one more important feature of the coordinate plane. You have something that is called the origin. And if you think about what the word origin means, the origin is where things start. And so, of course, the origin is where our whole coordinate system starts. And every time you plot a point, the origin is the place that you're going to start from. So if I had -2, I have to start at 0 and then go -2. So that's why the origin is so important. And they love to ask questions about what is the location of the origin. So let's get this definition in here, shall we? The origin is the point at which the x-axis, horizontal, and the y-axis, vertical, intersect or cross on the coordinate plane. And it is represented by the ordered pair 0, 0, because it's smack in the middle. It's where they both have zeros. So the origin is 0, 0. You need to know that. So if you need to, highlight that so you don't forget. On your grid up above, or on the coordinate plane up above, I want you to go ahead and draw an arrow and put a dot. That is your origin right there in the middle where those lines cross. And then I want you to label it as the origin and put the ordered pair so you don't forget. That is the origin, and the ordered pair is 0, 0. All right. We also have to talk about the quadrants. The quadrants, so if you think of the word quad, like if we talked about quadruple or quadrilateral, all of those are things that have to do with 4. So a quadrant represents the 4 sections formed when 2 perpendicular number lines intersect to divide the coordinate plane into sections. and they're labeled with Roman numerals. So that it looks like I, and then 2 I's, and then 3 I's, and then an I and a V. Those are Roman numerals. And that stands for 1, 2, 3, and 4. But when they give you those on tests and quizzes, you're going to see them as Roman numerals, and they look like capital I's. So I put a big blue C on your coordinate plane because that helps you remember the order that your quadrants are named in. So when we start the C, we're up in the top right corner, and that's quadrant 1. And it's important to know that in quadrant 1, it's first because everything in quadrant 1 is positive. Your X values are positive and your Y values are positive. So quadrant 1 is the first one you learned about, and everything is positive, positive. Then if we continue around to make our C, quadrant 2 is in the top left, but this time my X values, or my first number, will be negative, and my second number is positive. So my X values will be negative because I'm going to the left of 0, and my second number will be positive because I'm still above the water. If I go into section 3, or quadrant 3, that's in the bottom left, both of my values will actually be negative. I'm going to be negative for my X and negative for my Y. And then the last quadrant is quadrant 4. I know it looks like IV, but that is a Roman numeral 4. And in this one, the X is positive, but the Y is negative. And you need to know these values because sometimes they're going to give you a point, and if you can look at them and say, okay, that one's negative, negative, I know that's in quadrant 3, so that's going to help you make sure you're not going the wrong direction and putting it in the wrong place. So these will help you make sure that you're putting your points in the right quadrants, so it's a good thing to memorize them. Okay, so again, at the very top, I want to talk about how do you plot a point. And this is kind of new for you. Some of you have had it in 5th grade, but some of you haven't seen it before, so pay attention. You have to be able to graph a point that is given to you. For example, if they say, where is point -3, 5, I want you to put it on the coordinate plane and then label it letter A. So I have to start at my origin, which is 0, 0 in the middle. Don't forget, X before Y, walk before you fly. So I'm going to start at 0, 0, and I'm going to go -3 spaces. That's an X value, so I'm going to go either left or right. Since it's negative, I'm going to go to the left, to -3. But then I have to go my Y value, and since my Y is positive, I'm going to go up 5. And then I put my point and I label it A. The other thing you have to be able to do is identify the ordered pair for a given point. For example, if I gave you this point here and I labeled it M, you would have to tell me what are the numbers. So if you look, and this is where students get mistakes because they try to do it in the wrong order, you have to start at the origin and either go left or right first. I'm going to go right to the 7, so my first number is going to be a 7, and then I'm going to go down 1, which is a -1. So my points would be 7, -1, and that would be my answer. So you have to be able to do both, in addition to labeling the quadrants. So they may say, what quadrant is this? And you'd have to label it 1, 2, 3, or 4. You have to know the axes, and you have to know the origin. Now that we're all done with the vocabulary lesson and we've talked about what you have to know, I want you to make sure that you have all of these notes at the top of your page on your coordinate plane. I also want you to put a star in the 4th quadrant to let me know that you listened to the video. Again, put the star in the 4th quadrant to let your teacher know that you listened to the video. If you haven't copied all these notes, pause the video and make sure you have them all in, because these are the notes that are required for your TOC. And now it's time for you to show what you've learned. I want you to go ahead and log in to your homework quiz and answer the questions.